Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? How's
Everything's,
everybody?
everything's great. Hi,
Good.
everybody.
Yep. Welcome to Parlour Tea. We are pre-recorded. Um, just
Yes.
there you go. This episode is pre-recorded. You could still post your comments, and maybe we'll get to that, or hopefully, maybe Steve can get to that as well. Um,
Speaking of,
yes.
shall we
Speaking
bring
of,
Steven in?
yes, we
Very
have a
excited.
special
Our
guest.
special guest tonight, Steven Farkas. He's an author. He will also, before we forget to mention it later, he will be doing a book signing at the Parlour in Keyport on Saturday, September 14th from 2 to 4, but let's bring him on.
Correct. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Parlour Tea.
Thank you for having me on.
Good. I'm glad you came on.
Me too.
So, why don't we just get into the fact of what you do, who you are? Why don't you tell a little bit about who you are, what you do, and everything to people?
Well, I'm Steven Farkas. I'm a horror and a little bit of science fiction writing too. So I've been writing horror books. They're fairly short. They're more novellas than they are novels.
I love that.
And I've written about 18, I guess, now over the last 10 to 12 years. So every year I do a few book signings, like I'm going to do this Saturday with you guys over in the Parlour. So I usually try to do about 20 a year. So
That's a lot.
That is.
yeah, well, when you're an independent author, you've got to sort of trek across the land and promote your books as best you can, both online like this, as well as go into as many book signing events, either in stores or festivals. For instance, I even run a horror book festival called Scary Stories Book Fest, and it's always the second Saturday of October. Used to be in Asbury. This year we had to move it to Flemington to Act Two Books. So
Okay, that's cool.
That's a cool place.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you had said that you've done like 18, and then and out of all of them, what is your favorite story that you wrote?
The absolute favorite, probably
Okay,
the new book.
That's a hard question,
Yeah,
John.
I
You're
mean,
starting right
when you're
off.
looking at the total number, that's like saying which of your children is your most favorite. And of course, you usually have one, but you lie about it.
Maybe top 5.
Well, I'd say that the two. I did a Christmas book last year, and it sold really well, and I enjoyed writing that, and it was fun. And of course, because it's tied to the holiday, I usually promote that like in November and December. But I really like the two books I did this year, especially the second one that just came out, because my thought process really in writing it was the idea that I wanted to write a book that I could also maybe turn into a play or a musical at some point that was tied to the book. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Well, that's good. Is that the new book that's coming out?
Yeah, it's called Blood Rose, and it's about a young woman who gets murdered. And she gets murdered, of course, on February 29th. So she comes back every 4 years on the leap year, and somebody else ends up dead right where she died. Usually it's her sort of taking vengeance on people who are like the people who killed her. So.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
That sounds cool. Is there like, because I haven't had the opportunity to, read all of your works. Is there something that would be like you can revisit it, like how with horror movies they're like part 1, part 2? Is that
Well, the book I wrote called Something Evil This Way Comes, that I wrote back in April. It's about a demon-owned bookstore. And so the bookstore just randomly shows up in the town and nobody knows like how it gets there. They just think, oh, it's a new business. And basically whatever book you buy in that store, that's how the demon attacks you and takes your soul through whatever that book was that you pick. So pick wisely. After he kind of gets his fill of the town, the bookstore just sort of vanishes. And the publisher who was going to publish it last year said, well, hell, you could just do 2, 3, 4, just a different town.
That would be so cool.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I could. I hadn't really thought about doing that. I just thought about the first story. But I suppose I could do a Something Evil This Way Comes part 2, like Friday the 13th. Just keep going. Until I run out of ideas, or until people just decide, why the hell am I reading the same story in a different town?
Right.
So it's tough. It's tough to write sequels because you have to tweak it a little bit so it's not exactly the same story again somewhere else. So one series I do have, and it's just 3 books. It's set 300 years in the future, and it's a crime series called the Blue Blaze crime series. And Blue Blaze is the main character. He's a private detective, but he's a robot. And he solves various crimes. And so there's 3. It's like a series of 3 books. So.
So I'm going to ask a more broad question then, not your favorite story. Sorry, John, you mean to cut you off. What's your favorite genre to write about? Like, what are your favorite monsters?
That's what
favorite monsters.
or bad guys or horror. Like, what's your favorite?
Well, horror is, of course, my favorite. I started writing horror, I think, originally because when I was young, one of the first books that kind of got me to read was Edgar Allan Poe's stories. And so I like that sort of dark horror. It's, sometimes I write just bloodbaths of zombies or vampires. And then other times I'll write something like, Blood Rose or Something Evil This Way Comes, which is more sort of dark and thriller and not a bloodbath,
Right.
And that's kind of more because of sort of the whole H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King thing that I probably got me involved in writing when I was young. So
the funny part is that was the question, because I know that horror has met as like the bigger umbrella as the little categories. So zombies and vampires and religious kinds of things. Is there anything that you stay away from?
There hasn't been anything I've stayed away from. I haven't done like an outright serial killer story, and I haven't done a werewolf story yet. And it's not because I stay away from it. It's because I haven't come up with a really good idea yet that I liked, that I thought, okay, this could be a book.
Right. They're coming out.
I have done vampires, I've done zombies, I've done ghosts, demons. So
those are my favorite.
Yeah, I just saw a trailer for the new Wolfman movie. It's coming out in 2025. It looks really, really good. So it's kind of fun.
I'm unaware of it. So
yeah, you got to look it up. It's I saw the trailer on TikTok.
I do sometimes feel like, I guess the way I write the books, that if it ever were to happen that one of them became a movie or a TV series, it would be easy to shift the story. And I don't know if I do that on purpose because of the age of which I've been writing is so, especially in horror, like movie centered more, I think, sometimes than book centered. For instance, my very first book signing was in 2010. And I was at the Paranormal Books and Curiosities. You know, she set me up
We
for a
love that
book
place.
signing, and it was awesome. And the first person that came into my first book signing, she looked at the book, she picked it up, thumbed through it, probably spent about 15 minutes asking me questions and talking about it. And then I asked her, "Hey, you want me to sign it?" You know, she put the book down and said, "I can't wait till the movie comes out," and walked out of the bookstore. And I'm like, "Wait, what?" So I was like, "Okay," and that was you know, I've since done better where people actually show up and buy the book. But that was the very, very first event I ever did. She was like looking forward to the movie, but she didn't, God forbid she read, So
we
that was a
adore
little
Kathy.
strange. Huh?
We adore Kathy from the Paranormal Bookstore. We're friends with her, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I do. I used to do book signings there a lot. Now it's mostly when she does Krampus and the Jersey Devil Fest. I always just make sure I go to that. So
she's great. Those things are awesome. Highly suggest if anybody's in the area to go
that's the way it's grown. She takes up like the whole all of Matson Avenue there. That whole part behind.
It's really good. And if you haven't never been on a ghost like kind of investigation with her, that's what I did, and she's awesome. She's very thorough. She's really good.
Cool.
Besides writing down everything, and you doing Blood Rose comes out. When is it out? Is it out now?
Well, it's out now. You can buy it on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. And then I've got copies that hopefully will make it here by Wednesday, so that I will have them for Saturday. So
that's great. I'm excited about that. Is there anything else like in the works? Like, do you have like a list of things that you wrote down and you already started working on another?
No, not really. I mean, I have been thinking about one of the things I've never written before was a werewolf story. So I have been toying with that idea maybe for next year. So
that's cool.
Because I used to put out like 4 books a year, and I'm a little slower, and I put out maybe 2 a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. So
that's still a lot.
That is.
Yeah, but you got to think my books are, like 120 pages. They're not like Stephen King novels, so they're what you would refer to as a novella, I guess. So
speaking of Stephen King,
read.
do you have a favorite author that you really enjoy?
I mean, other than Poe and H.P. Lovecraft, I mean a modern author.
Sure.
I like some of Stephen King's stuff. I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but some of his stuff I enjoy. There's not a lot of modern horror authors, ironically, that I pay that close of attention to.
Yeah.
The ones that I know, like Frank Edler, because like I know him as a friend and he comes to the festival. So I'll, get interested in their books, Tim Meyer, authors like that. Other independent authors, basically. So
Yeah, there's two that in particular that I really, really love that are excellent horror writers. If you're looking for good books to read, they're short stories. Elias Withrow and James Colton. James Colton writes some of the scariest ghost stories I've ever read. I haven't read yours yet, so hopefully yours are scary.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm always looking for new things to write because to read because you can't be a writer if you don't read.
You don't read,
You know,
exactly.
you have to, really. So
besides getting inspiration, based off of like ideas that just pop in your head, or are they inspired by movies? And if they are, what are some of your favorite horror movies that you really love?
wow. I would say when I was younger, I really got into the Friday the 13th movies, and so every terrible Friday the 13th movie that comes out, I have to go see it. I like the Halloweens too. So, I don't know what actual horror movie would be my favorite.
It's a tough one.
I'd have to think about it. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't.
We'll come back to that later.
And I do like some of King's movies too. So especially the Kathy Bates, probably one of my favorite characters in a horror book ever. Her character.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I guess I understand. I mean, I love Stephen King, and I think that Stephen King's older things, like The Shining and Carrie and Christine and those things. But sometimes when you read the book and then you see the movie, it's sort of
like especially the Shining. The movie almost is so far away from the book that it's almost like it's a different story with only just a little bit of the actual book in it. And I remember somebody asked Stephen King, like, how do you feel about the movies? Because a lot of times they have the title, but they don't necessarily follow the story in the book. And he said, well, I view the movies as just sort of a companion to the book. So I don't see it as having to be exactly the same way as the book is. So.
Yeah.
That was his opinion. So
it probably saves him a lot of stress to think that way too.
Well, he probably also, as long as the check doesn't bounce, go ahead, you can use the book.
Yeah, there you go. But even when it comes to like what is it? M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. I think his movies are really great. They go really, really good, and then all of a sudden it just goes.
Yeah.
And that's upsetting.
Well, nothing will ever be, Sixth Sense, because that was so good that he almost set himself up for failure.
Yes.
Because all the other movies, like, they don't quite meet the same, ability to surprise and scare as that movie did. So like he fooled me. I didn't realize he was dead till she dropped the ring on the floor, and I was like, holy shit, he's been dead the whole time.
People still talk about it.
That was a really good movie. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
I have a question.
Normal.
I got a question then.
Okay.
What's your thought on ghosts in general? Do you believe? Do you not believe?
Oh, I believe. I own a 250-year-old house, and I'm sitting in the kitchen now in front of one of the brick walls.
Nice. Very nice.
And we believe thoroughly that this house has got to be haunted. Just some of the things that happen. Things will disappear and then show up in the oddest places. Lights. Oh, I thought the light was dead. I go to change the lights. They come back on for another year. I'm like, wait, what happened?
My
So
house.
there are a lot of really odd things. I'm like, well, at least it's not a scary ghost. It's just one that's, messing around with us. So
My house is very old as well. I'm always like, please be a ghost. Please don't be something I need to have fixed. Please just be a ghost.
So when you were growing up, I gather, based off of what your profession is by writing these books, which is kind of cool that you probably had it as a hobby and turned it into, something that you made.
Yeah. I think the first stories I wrote was when I was 7, 8 years old, just
Cool.
tinkering around. I wrote a witch story when I was 8-year-old and then I reprised it in high school because for English, and I tinkered a little better with it. And she made all of us read our short stories, and it was me and one other kid. She says, those stories were really good. You should keep at it. So I guess I have to say my high school teachers really pushed me to keep going.
That's cool.
That is a really good thing. So so your favorite holiday, I'm sure, would be Halloween.
Yes. I decorate. I put the decorations up Halloween, October 1st, and they don't go down till sometime in early November, whenever I can get to it. So
As it should be.
But I make sure they're up as soon as October starts. So,
but you'll see when you see the store. That's pretty much what ours looks like.
I was at your you decorating for Halloween? I said I've been at your store though once.
It's always we rearranged a lot of it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, our whole
lots of people in Keyport are already decorating for Halloween.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll be like, you know what? Let's start now because then I can get it done and light it up as soon as October gets here, So
yeah, I always thought I've noticed that a lot of the things because you can always see how everything is going to go when all of the decorations come out. I think a lot of it is old school, like the 70s style is out there, as you can tell.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I like that stuff's cool. It's coming back again. I think a lot of people like that stuff.
Yeah, Target.
It was funny. I used to remember when I was a kid, we had like the Count Chocula and the Boo Berry cereals. And they disappeared for a while. And all of a sudden, I guess it was maybe 3 years ago, I walked into an Acme and they were back again. I'm like, oh, I got to buy them all. And then I bought them all. I saved the boxes so I could put them in a frame, Woohoo.
I think they tasted different, don't they?
Well,
yeah,
I know you remember
maybe a little bit. Oh, I mean, I'm sure they updated it a little. So.
Yeah, I guess. Danny's a big fan. Yeah, Danny, which is Genevieve's husband's a big fan. And he did Boo Berry and Count Chocula as paintings on the wall at the store. So it's kind of funny.
Wait, when did he? I don't remember seeing it.
Oh, they're brand new. They just.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then I'll see them on Saturday. So.
Yes, we'll show you.
That's cool. You talked about where I get my ideas and things, and really, it'll be funny because I'll be like mowing the grass or sweeping the floor or something, and an idea will pop up in my head, and literally, I will spend the next month trying to build the whole story in my head. And then I sit down and start to type once I think I have the story laid out in my head. Sometimes it'll change a little when I start typing and go, oh, you know what? Maybe this is a little better. But I have almost the whole story built in my head before I even start typing.
That's impressive because I'd be afraid that I would lose it. I've got like 17 journals around of all different ideas and fragments of stories and fragments of business plans because I'll forget.
So
because that's just the way it works for me. Like I don't know if you hear my dog walking around over here. Because I'm toying with the story and going, should it go this way? Should it go that way? And then I sit down and I start typing it. And a lot of times it'll only take me 2 to 3 weeks to type the story out.
Wow.
And sometimes it'll change a little bit. Like I'll go, you know what? This ending seems a little better, so I'm going to do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the only book I really had a hard time deciding on how it should go, and I changed a lot of it actually when I was typing. Is the newest book, Blood Rose, where I was having a hard time. I knew where I wanted to go with it. I knew what the story should be, but I ended up like sitting down and talking to like my wife talking. She's like, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? So she gave me 10 different ways to go. And I'm like, all right, let me figure out which way seems the best way to go. So
Right. So
and, once I got it figured out, then I just went right through. So
besides the fact of you being at our store at 2:00 on this Saturday,
December 14th.
Yes, there you go. You have to make sure that because just in case people don't. Well, I don't mind if they show up.
That's
anyway,
true.
Do you have any other upcoming things that you would like to promote?
On the 21st, I will be at the New Providence, New Jersey Book Festival. October 12th is the one I run, the horror book festival that'll be in Flemington at Act 2. There should be another one on October 26th back in Asbury Park. It's usually at a brewery called Wild Air Brewery. So I'm still trying to set that up or organizing that. And then Krampus in December.
Cool.
Yay.
And I'm sure I will be adding 1 or 2 other things in October because I try to load up October with 4 or 5 book signings because, well, it's October.
Yes.
Right.
It's when people I think are really thinking about it, you know.
No one sleeps in October. None of us.
None. All of us. No.
So real quick, the link tree is running down below. You guys can check out all of Steven's different links through that. Dark Mind of Steven Farkas, which is very cool.
And they can buy the books through there. It'll link it to
the link will goes into my website, it goes into my social medias, and it goes into links for the books. You can find them through there. So
all of your upcoming events will be on there too?
Yes, usually they are on there, but it's usually like you link through to my social media, and that's where you find all of the upcoming events. So,
so get on there and like it.
So, is there anything else that you like to put out there about like you or your books or what's going on in your upcoming thing that you want to talk about? Because I think that it's really cool, and I'm looking forward to Saturday. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, so am I. I've been trying to tell everybody to come because I'm like, well, if we can get, like 6 or 7 people or 8 or whatever there around 2:00, I wouldn't mind, doing a little reading and question and answer.
That's nice.
Yeah.
There just has to be a few people there, maybe even if it's 4 or 5 and they're willing to just hang out for a little while. I always like to try and do that if I can. Wow. So, and the festival that I run, that's going to be October 12th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Flemington, Act 2, on the ground of Act 2 Books. I have 22 horror authors coming, a publisher. I have Horror Realm podcast is supposed to be there interviewing the authors. Vampires in New Jersey will be there, so it's going to be
great. That's great.
A wild event, and hopefully it doesn't rain because, of course, that size has to be outside.
Yeah.
We set it rain date for the next day, the 13th. So, but hopefully it's a dry day.
Hopefully, because that's also a ghost tour day for me. So I'm always
So-
hoping for dry days on Saturdays.
So people can go on to the link tree to buy and purchase tickets, or is that a free event? Or
That's a free event.
Okay.
I don't charge anybody, even the authors, to come. It's all
That's
free.
good. That's
That's
a good.
Sort of something I organize because I want to. So
That's good.
Awesome.
So I think we should end it on this one. I'm going to ask a question, hopefully to.
Uh-oh.
So
okay.
So last week we had a big discussion on our haunted road trip that we went on virtually.
Right.
That would be the question always
So
now.
here's a question. Do you think that Lizzie Borden committed those murders, or do you believe she didn't?
I believe she did it. So I have no doubt.
Okay. So Genevieve.
Yes.
So,
High five.
Okay.
So
I believe she did it. She did it. She got away with it. Good for her.
there you go.
I mean,
Yes.
I just think
I'm
it's a
there
fun
with
idea.
you.
It was
why
intriguing.
I assume John thinks that maybe she didn't do it?
My depiction is that I do believe she had a stake in it, but I don't believe she was the actual murderess. But that's my opinion on that.
We debated last week.
We debated last week.
Who did you think was the murderess?
I think it was her sister, and I think that she helped her. And I think that it was sort of the reason why there was such, combativeness with the two of them as it went along, is that she felt bad that she was going through it and taking, see, she's saying no. But I think that Lizzie was the stronger one. I think she was very stoic, and I think she pulled it off. I think that if she would have been arrested.
We can discuss on Saturday.
That's my opinion. Anyway, Steven, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I mean,
and
I'll come on anytime you want.
I hope that your wife is coming with you. She was absolutely lovely.
Oh yeah, I remember I was doing the event across the street, and all of a sudden you guys walked over, and I was like, oh, that's because she had walked over to she's like, I gotta really check the store out. So
yeah, she's sweet. She's a sweet lady, and I'm glad that she was outside, and she's like, I'm coming in, and I'm like, come on in. And if anybody wants to do anything cool, they should go to 3BR. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool place.
So thank you very much, and I hope that it'll be really great on Saturday. It looks like good weather, so hopefully people stroll in, come by, say hello to Steve, buy a book.
Hope some stroll in, and I hope some of the people who I tapped on the shoulder and said, "You're coming, right?" Show up too.
We love that.
We love
that. I have a few people who, I mean, they have like all my books, but I'm like, there'll be another one there. There'll be a new book.
Yeah, hang out.
Check it out. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
And we look forward to Saturday. And thank you guys. And we will see you next time on Parlour Tea.
Don't forget to follow, and share.
Yep. And go follow, and share Steven too.
Yes.
Show the love.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.